The host is not allowing participants to unmute. Hare Krishna. I think it's going to work today.
Hare Krishna, Mataji, please accept my humble obeisance.
Jai, glory to Srila Prabhupada. Oh, nice darshan there of Rajpur Jagannath.
Hare Krishna, Mataji, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Ruchi.
Switching on my camera in a minute, Mataji.
Okay. All right, 9:30. I'm going to start with the pranams as everybody joins. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militan Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Kamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostite Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Right, Hare Krishna. Nice to be with you all again after 3 days break, a longer break than we expected, but it looks like I have a better internet connection today, so hopefully we are all good. And if any of you who can turn on your videos, please turn them on now so I can see your beautiful lotus faces. All right, so today we are covering chapters 16 and 17. We're going to do the second part of Raganugabhakti and the first part of Bhava Bhakti. And then tomorrow we'll do the second part of Bhava Bhakti and Prema Bhakti. That'll be our concluding class. Okay, so Raganugabhakti. Does anyone remember something that we spoke about in class on Friday? In relation to Raganugabhakti? Yeah.
Mother, we discussed that not everyone is a Ragatmika Bhakta. I mean, not even Pandavas or, Shishupal. They're totally, Ragatmika. Although the gopis are. And we discussed that how, yeah.
What is a Ragatmika Bhakta? How would you define that?
Ragatmika means who is totally absorbed, 10% of the time in Krishna and without any, feeling of reverence or awe and respect. It should be totally, based on love.
Just love, total loving absorption in Krishna. Okay, good. So which were the groups that did count as Ragatmika Bhaktas?
Mataji, gopis are the best example of Ragatmika Bhaktas.
Yes.
And some of the Vrishnis.
Some of the Vrishnis, yeah. And then what is Raganugabhakti in relation to the Ragatmikas?
Like Raganuga means Rag Anug. Those are followers of the Ragatmika Bhakti, they are Raganugabhakti.
Okay, so following in the wake of, following in the mood of those Ragatmika Bhaktas. Okay, good. So then we started talking about, it was mentioned in the last chapter that there are two types of Ragatmika Bhaktas, and those are, what did he call it? The two types?
One was, I guess, Kam Rupa Bhakti. I cannot remember the second one.
Yeah, does anyone remember the second? What's that? Did you say something, Rukmini? How do you say Vinny? Maybe our connection's not so good. Okay, so one was Kama Rupa and the other was Sambandha Rupa. So Sambandha means relationship, as you know. So anyone who's in a relationship, a close, loving relationship without any conception of awe and reverence would count as Sambandha Anuga. And so that's how chapter 16 starts. At the end of 15, we heard a lot about Kama Rupa. And so it's kind of like an awkward division of chapters here, the way the Nectar devotion is divided, because chapter 16, the relationship would have gone better at the end of chapter 15, and then the whole discussion about eligibility and the practice of Raganuga starts, at the second section, actually. But in any case, I'm going to, so we'll start from this Sambandha Rupa. Yeah, Aradi Gadadhar, you have a question?
These two things, I had a question that time also I couldn't ask. Like Kama Rupa Bhakti and Sambandha Rupa Bhakti. So Kama Rupa, of course, we all know the gopis are an example of that. And Sambandha Rupa means, who is in close relationship with Krishna, but without any, honor or respect, something like that.
Yeah.
So that will come with those Ragatmika Bhaktas that are Vishnis, like Uddhava or something like that.
Yeah.
No, not Uddhava. Uddhava is a he worships out of awe and reverence, but other Vishnis, isn't it?
I mean, whichever of the Vrishnis that are devoid of any conception of awe and reverence.
Yeah. So any other example than Vishnis, because we have only heard of these two, Ragatmikas, Gopis and the Vishnis. Any other
Yeah.
example?
That's what we're going to go into now. So it's basically any other relationship apart from Madhurya Rasa. So, Mother Yashoda, Nanda Maharaj, the cowherd boys, like that. They're all Ragatmika Bhaktas in the category of Sambandha Rupa.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. The reason that list of 6 was taken from the Srimad Bhagavatam. That was from Narada Muni's description in the 7th canto. So Rupa Goswami was referring to that and saying that out of these 6 categories of people who are totally absorbed in Krishna, because after defining Ragatmika Bhakti as total absorption in Krishna, he gives 6 categories of people that were totally absorbed. But then he says, but this, and this aren't Ragatmikas. So total absorption is not the only qualification. It has to be favorable. It has to be devoid of awe and reverence, like that. And so then he, from that, just that list of 6, he selected only 2 out, the gopis and some of the Vrishnis. But they're not the only Ragatmika Bhaktas, because there are other categories of people who weren't in that list who are Ragatmika Bhaktas, right? Like the cowherd boys are not in that list. Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj are not in that list. Okay, so we're going to expand on it now. I will share my screen with you. Oh, we didn't sing the song. Well, we can do it now. Better late than never. Okay, ready? Nana Shastra Vicharana Ekanipuno Sadharma Samstapako Lokanam Hitakarino Tribhuvane Manyo Sharanya Karo Radha Krishna Padharavinda Bhajana Nandena Mataliko Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghuyugo Shri Jiva Gopalako. Someone please read the translation.
I offer my respectful obeisances unto the 6 Goswamis, namely Shri Rupa Goswami, Shri Sanatan Goswami, Shri Raghunabhakti Goswami, Shri Raghunath Das Goswami, Shri Jiva Goswami, and Shri Gopal Bhatt Goswami, who are very expert in scrutinizingly studying all the revealed scriptures with the aim of establishing eternal religious principles for the benefit of all human beings. Thus, they are honored all over the 3 worlds, and they are worth taking shelter of because they are absorbed in the mood of the gopis and are engaged in the transcendental loving service of Radha and Krishna. Hare Krishna.
All right, Jai, Hare Krishna, thank you. And then this is the last of your 4 Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu verses to memorize. Anasaktasya vishayan yatarham upayunjataha nirbandha Krishna sambandhe yuktam vairagyam uchyate. Translation, please.
When one is not attached to anything, but at the same time accepts anything in relation to Krishna, one is rightly situated above possessiveness.
Okay, thank you very much. So chapter 16, spontaneous devotional service further described. And so this chapter is all about Raganugabhakti, and we'll hear about eligibility, categories, and the practice of. So let me slide this over. This is a so just review. We were just mentioning that the 2 kinds of Ragatmika Bhakti were described in the last chapter, Kama Rupa and Sambandha Rupa. And Kama Rupa was discussed, and now we're going to talk about Sambandha Rupa. So this is the direct text from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu here. He says, Sambandha Rupa Ragatmika Bhakti is that Bhakti inspired by great absorption arising from identifying oneself as a parent, friend, or servant of Govinda. So the 3 rasas apart, without Madhurya Rasa is its own category. And these are the other ones. So this is Vatsalya, Sakiras, and Dasyaras. Shantaras doesn't count because there's no service. It doesn't come into the realm of Raganugabhakti. This refers to the bhakti of the cowherd people. This is because these other relationships in Braj also have a predominance of intense affection, rag, caused by a lack of awareness of Krishna as God. So this last sentence, Rupa Goswami is reminding us of what Ragatmika is. It's intense affection with a lack of awareness that Krishna is God. Okay, so Prabhupada points out here that we can never become Nanda Maharaj or Mother Yashoda, but we can develop loving feelings like them in the mood of parental affection and aspire to serve Krishna or to be the servant of the servants of Krishna in that same mood. And this is what Raganugabhakti is. And then, this particular mood. So at the present moment, we may not know what our mood of service is in our constitutional position in relationship with Krishna, whether we're in the mood of the gopis or the cowherd boys or the parents of Krishna or the servants of Krishna, but that will awaken as we continue in bhakti, and at an advanced stage of bhakti, it will become clear to us. All right, so then sometimes devotees might ask, why didn't Srila Prabhupada speak much about Raganugabhakti, even though, it's directly spoken about here in Nectar Devotion, which Prabhupada wrote. So you could say, well, Prabhupada did speak about it in his books because he explained it in Nectar Devotion, and he chose to give us the Nectar Devotion, and he gave it in the beginning. And Nectar Devotion goes into a lot of detail about, all these relationships with Krishna. And it's for a reason, so that we can understand how pure devotees, eternal associates of Krishna, relate with Krishna, and think about, at least just, from maybe a theoretical point of view or even intellectual point of view, just think about wow, I also have a relationship with Krishna. I wonder, am I a cowherd boy? It's fine to wonder about it, in an innocent way, of course, without like thinking this is what I am and trying to, prematurely be it, but just to imagine that, yeah, one day I'll be there and I will have a relationship with Krishna and I wonder what it will be like that. So, but still we see that Prabhupada in his lectures, he didn't mention it much. So this is a quotation here from the Nectar Devotion. Spontaneous love of Krishna as exhibited by the Rishnis and the denizens of Vrindavan is eternally existing in them. In the stage of devotional service where regulative principles are followed, so that's Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, there is no necessity of discussing this love, for it must develop of itself at a more advanced stage. So it's sufficient for us to just know that these loving relationships exist and to know that we will have one one day in one of those moods, but we don't need to go into a lot of detail about it at this stage. We just need to focus on doing the processes of Vaidhi very nicely so that we'll be able to come to the stage where it will be revealed to us. Yes, Aradi Gadadhar Prabhu.
Yeah, Mataji, like it's mentioned that automatically love will develop as we start from Vedi Bhakti till the point we got to Ragatmika Bhakti. So I wanted to know that like we progressively move forward towards Ragatmika Bhakti from Vedi Bhakti. So like in between we come to Raganugabhakti. So at different stages of Raganugabhakti, what kind of rules exist, and how much are to be followed, or how much discount is there, or how much do we automatically know that now I can. So if you could elaborate a bit on this thing.
You're talking about the rules. So to what extent do Raganuga Bhaktas follow the rules, the Shastra Vidhi?
Yeah,
Is that your question?
Mataji.
Okay, we're going to get to that. We'll get
Okay,
that.
okay.
Just hang on. Okay. All right. So the next thing is, this is in chapter 2. Remember in chapter 2 when the different levels there was an overview of the different levels of devotional service, and Raganuga was discussed there. So this is just a quote from Srila Prabhupada's writing, Nectar Devotion, chapter 2. Can someone please read this?
Another part of sadhana bhakti is called Raganuga. Raganuga refers to the point at which, by following the regulative principles, one becomes a little more attached to Krishna and executes devotional service out of natural love. For example, a person engaged in devotional service may be ordered to rise early in the morning and offer arati, which is a form of deity worship. In the beginning, by the order of his spiritual master, one rises early in the morning and offers arati. But then he develops real attachment. When he gets this attachment, he automatically tries to decorate the deity and prepare different kinds of dresses and thinks of different plans to execute his devotional service nicely. Although it is within the category of practice, this offering of loving service is spontaneous. So the practice of devotional service, sadhana bhakti, can be divided into two parts, namely regulative and spontaneous. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Yeah, so there's two ways of looking. There's two aspects to Raganuga Bhakti. One is what we're talking about, what we've been talking about since the last chapter, is in this following in the footsteps of a Ragatmika Bhakta of Raj. And then the other aspect is the quality of it, that it's totally spontaneous. And it's not, so yeah, this is also touching on Radhika Radhar's question, that it's not governed by rules, because the thing is that it's going to happen regardless of the rules, right? Your loving service to Krishna is not a result of hearing, reading a rule or being told a rule and forcing yourself to follow that rule. You're still following the rules, you're acting within the boundaries of the rules, but you're doing it spontaneously, just from the heart. Like your own love for Krishna is what's impelling you to serve, rather than being told that this is how to serve, you have to serve like this, right? So it's not that you're not following the rules, but you're not following because of the rules. You're just doing it naturally. Okay.
So it means, when we keep progressing, automatically the rules that we are following in Vedi Bhakti, all out of force, that force, progressively changes into spontaneous.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
And then it may also be that, as a person in Raganugabhakti, there are some, because their service for Krishna and their mood in loving Krishna is very clear, then it's also clear to them what's favorable for that and what is less favorable. So then, because there's limited time in life, then we can't do everything. So they may put more time into following certain rules, or certain, the 64 angas of bhakti, or the 9 processes of bhakti, and then less emphasis on others which are less supportive of their particular mood of loving service. So what their practice of bhakti looks like at the Raganuga stage may be different from what it looked like when they were, early practitioners of Vaidhi Bhakti.
And
So we
in
can't
this
compare
regard,
them. We can't compare them to us. We can't, how an advanced devotee sadhana, we shouldn't compare that to what new people have to follow. So for a brand new bhakta, it's very important that they do this, that, the other thing, follow the program very strictly, right? This time be at this place doing this thing, and that will help them advance. But they shouldn't criticize a very advanced devotee who's not doing that, because they have their own sadhana, which, is just what they need. And the particular sadhana changes over time. Yes.
okay. Yeah, thank you, Mataji. And just one thing more, like wanted to ask, there are different set of scriptures, and generally we, don't go deep into the, those scriptures that contains pastime, especially the Shad Goswami scriptures. So does that mean this also that, progressively, that one, starts, of course, under the guidance of any senior, that he starts reading, those scriptures which generally we people don't read progressively, as and when he feels that I think, I should read now.
Yes,
How
but
does, yeah,
like you said, it has to be under the guidance of a spiritual master. So you shouldn't just think on your own, oh, I'm making some advancement now. I'm feeling like, I'm feeling a little spontaneous. I like doing devotional service. No one has to tell me to do my service anymore. I think I'm going to start reading Gopal Champu and Govinda Lilamrita. And it's not on our own. If you think you're on that level, then you can always consult your Diksha Guru and Shiksha Gurus and ask them and see what they think. But generally, it's not. Generally, the initiative should not come from your side. Generally it'll be someone else who will recognize that you're ready. Krishna will arrange that one of your Shiksha Gurus or Diksha Guru will recognize that you're ready and will suggest those things and will give you a reading list. Like you should, I think that if this book will help you a lot, this book will, inspire you. Should read this now. Okay.
yeah, thank you, Mrs.
It's like, the saying that when the disciple is ready, then the guru appears. So when you're ready at every stage, when you're ready to go to the next stage, the person who is going to take you to that next stage will be there for you by Krishna's arrangement, and they'll hold your hand and guide you through the process.
Yeah, thank you, Mataji.
All right. Okay. Oh, Vidyavati. Go ahead, please.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Yeah.
Mataji, I wanted to ask in the same connection, like, I hope I'm not asking a wrong question, but we don't, as devotees, as Gaudiya Vaishnavas, I think we are not allowed to eat betel leaves of the betel plant, but
Mhm.
Lord Krishna, we in many other temples, they are offering it to the Lord, and we hear that the gopis also offer it to him and they also honor it.
Yeah.
So, I just wanted to, if you can throw some light on this.
Yeah, I heard that the betel is the only Mahaprasadam that we do not accept. Okay.
But why is it so, I know that we are not eating because it is it has some kind of intoxicant. So, but
Mhm.
how to convey this to an outsider, like a person when somebody asks us the same question, how should we convey this back to him that Lord is eating, but we cannot eat?
I mean, Lord does so many things that we cannot do. Lord dances with other men's wives. Lord steals butter from other people's houses. Can we do that? We are not Krishna. So we are the devotees. We have to do what the servants of Krishna do, not what Krishna does. Okay, let's go ahead. So eligibility for Raganugabhakti. A few things here that we need to be, Prabhupada is free from material contamination. We have to have that spontaneous eagerness to perform the various items of bhakti, but that doesn't mean disregarding the rules and regulations like I already discussed. It means just following them, but spontaneously, not because you have to. And then that you have this natural attraction. So that this natural attraction to an eternal Ragatmika devotee in Vrindavan has awakened. You have some inclination that has arisen in your heart. That's very genuine, that it's not like, oh, one day, like, I think I'm a gopi, next day, no, maybe I'm a cowherd boy. You're very sure. It's not like a fashion, it's like, you really know. And then, yeah, so this is also a good point that although Raganugabhakti is, it's an advanced stage, but it's still in the realm of practice. It's not perfection. We're talking, it's still sadhana bhakti. So there are two aspects, sadhana bhakti and sadhya bhakti. So this is still in the realm of sadhana. It's just the beginning. It's just like a little awakening. It's not the goal. The goal is yet to come.
And Sadhya Bhakti is Ragatmika only?
No, sadhya bhakti is Bhava and Prema bhakti are both sadhya. That's the goal, to experience that ecstatic emotion and transcendental love for the Lord. That's the goal. See, in Raganugabhakti, the emotions are not developed. It's more like there's a feeling. There's like it's more like an awakening. Raganugabhakti is an awakening. So you're you woke up, you kind of know who you are and how to, you have an attraction for Krishna, but those emotions are not flowing yet. But at least you know how to, your path forward is more clear. And then by cultivating Raganugabhakti with the focus on someone who does have those emotions and does have that pure love, then by their mercy, you can also, those emotions will be awakened within you. We're going to get to that when we talk about Bhava Bhakti. There's a whole, he'll explain how that happens. Ras Raman Krishna Prabhu?
Yes, Mataji, Hare Krishna. Mataji, in this slide, it is written that in the last, that it is in the realm of practice, it's not perfection. So I just want to know what is perfection then?
That's what I was just saying. Perfection is Prema Bhakti.
Okay,
We're still talking about sadhana bhakti here.
Okay.
It seems very high for us, right? Like, wow, it seems very high, but this is still beginner's level. This is like advanced beginner.
Okay.
Vaidhi sadhana bhakti is like beginners, and then Raganuga is advanced beginners.
Okay.
And then Bhava is like, intermediate, and Prema is advanced. That's like.
Okay, thank you.
Mataji, on this ladder, can we, diversify that, this part to this part comes under, Uttamadhikari, this part is Madhyamadhikari, this part, that neophyte, I forgot, Kanishtadhikari. Is there any such division that, from Nishtha starts Madhyamadhikari, from Bhava starts Uttamadhikari, any such division?
Yeah, it's like that the first, Shraddha, Bhajana Kriya, Anartana Vritti, Nishtha. Nishtha is kind of like the bridge. Those first ones are definitely, what were we equating them to before? Oh, we were equating that sadhana bhakti. The thing is, you could apply those. The way Kanishta, Madhyam, and Uttam Adhikari are applied is different in different contexts. But you could apply it like this. Yeah, sure. I mean, that's basically what it is. Kanishta just means beginner. Madhyam literally means in the middle, and Uttama means advanced, the topmost. So sure, you could apply those.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go ahead. All right, so this is directly from Rupa Goswami, the qualification for Raganuga. That person who is greedy for attaining a bhava similar to that of the inhabitants of Raj, who are fixed solely in Ragatmika Bhakti, is qualified for Raganugabhakti. So you need to have that greed. You have to really be like greedy for a particular bhava, particular mood. And the appearance of that greed is indicated when the intelligence does not depend on the rules of scripture and logic. So I was talking about that, right? That your devotional intelligence, your inspiration to serve Krishna doesn't depend on the rules of the scriptures anymore, or logic and reason. And after realizing to some degree of the sweetness, yeah, because you've actually realized the sweetness of the inhabitants of Raj, of the Ragatmika Bhaktas love by hearing about it. So you're going to see that in Raganugabhakti, there's a lot of emphasis on hearing. Because how else do we know? How else do we know how Mother Yashoda loves Krishna? How else do we know how the cowherd boys love and serve Krishna? We just have to hear about it. It's impossible for us to know. And by hearing, then we'll start to feel a connection. We'll feel more connected with a particular personality or category of personalities of Ragatmikas. So yeah, this is from C.C. Adi Lila. Special natural appreciation of the descriptions of a particular pastime of Godhead indicates the constitutional position of a living entity. So our constitutional positions are indicated by just when we hear pastimes of Krishna and we have a special appreciation for particular pastimes. Like I really like, when Krishna, this pastime where Krishna is in the forest with the cowherd boys and they're climbing the trees and pulling the tails of the monkeys and throwing the lunch bags and they're wrestling. And I really like that. Like I wish that I was there. Like when I hear that, I wish that I was there playing with Krishna like that. So when that becomes very deep and very genuine and something that you can't put down, you can't switch gears from that. It's like you just get like fixated on that every time. Then that's some indication. This is from Jiva Goswami's commentary. Can someone read this one, please?
Yes, Mataji.
When an advanced realized devotee hears about the affairs of the devotees of Vrindavan in the melas of Shant, Dasya, Sakhya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya, he becomes inclined in one of these ways and his intelligence becomes attractive. Indeed, he begins to covet the particular type of devotion. When such covetousness is awakened, one's intelligence no longer depends on the instructions of Shastra, revealed scripture, or on logic and argument. Jiva Goswami's commentary on Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu.
Okay, so you can see like it's so important to hear. We really just need to keep hearing, keep reading. But like I was saying before, that hearing is even more powerful than just reading on our own. But we should also read and supplement our reading with hearing. The two should go hand in hand. So that because it's the sound vibration. Sound vibration is what carries the potency. Even when we read, the best thing is to read out loud so that the sound vibration is there. Because the scripture is transcendental sound. And it used to be that it was never written down. It was just spoken, from guru to disciple, and they would hear and they would remember it. Now, because Kali Yuga, we have bad memories. Everything needs to be written down for us. Otherwise we lose it. 5 minutes later, we forgot everything. So, but still the concept is shabda, which means sound, means hearing. So we should hear others speaking and hear ourselves reading, and we have to hear it. Okay, we talked about this before. Yeah, go ahead.
Like, these things, we hear this many times that, one should follow in the footsteps of gopis, or, one should, discuss, this pastimes of Krishna so as to, awaken one's attraction towards Krishna. But we see, very less, there are, there is hearing or there is, discussion about Lord Krishna's pastimes in lectures. It's more or less, it's maximum time, it's only limited to etiquettes only. This is the way of living. Very, very rare, we hear in ISKCON the lectures related to Krishna's pastimes.
You can listen to my lectures on Krishna's pastimes on YouTube. I did a last Kartik, for every day of Kartik, I spoke about a different pastime of Krishna. So I have 30 hours. Some of them are longer. Average, I have 30 hours of Krishna in Vrindavan Leela.
If there is some, library created on YouTube, and some link, if you could share that in the group or personally.
Okay, I'll share it, sure.
Yeah,
and that was after I had just studied them in the Bhakti Vedanta course. We had just done an in-depth study of 10th canto with, all the Acharya's commentaries and the Krishna book and Srimad Bhagavatam and, hearing senior devotees' realizations and discussion. And right after that, we finished that section and Kartik came. And then one of my students asked me if I could speak on Krishna in Vrindavan during Kartik. So I did, and we recorded those. Okay, I'll share the link.
Yeah, thank you, Mataji.
Mataji, Prabhuji can go to ISKCON Vrindavan as well. These days, 10th canto is going on. So we've just finished, in 10th canto, we've just finished spring and autumn. Rainy, I think all spring is going on. So Prabhuji can go to there also. Listen to all the classes. For months, just Vrindavan is going on canto 10.
Oh, nice. Yeah, you're on that part. Good. There you go. See? No shortage. Okay, so we talked about this before. Siddha Pranali is it's actually it's mentioned in Harinam Chintamani and Jaiva Dharma. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur recognized it as a bona fide process for developing one's Siddha Deha, and details are given in other writings. And generally the time when this is given is when one gets to this advanced stage of meditation that's discussed in the Nectar of Instruction and Prabhupada's purport to text 8 by he quotes Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur talking about the different stages of meditation. So when one gets to this advanced stage of absorption, then the guru gives the disciple their identity as a manjari or whoever they are with specific details, 11 elements of one's spiritual identity. I can't remember all of them, but it's like your name, the clothes that you wear, that kind of thing. But we don't practice this anymore. And we heard about this in previous classes, why Srila Prabhupada writes about it. So I wanted to speak more. Gaurav Prabhu?
No, Mataji, just answered the question.
Oh, okay. All right. So anyways, we don't need to be told, because it awakens it. You realize these things. Priya Satyabhama.
Sorry, Mataji, my son was fiddling. So sorry.
Oh, okay. Aradhya Gadadhar.
Mataji, like many times we hear the glories of Ekadashi and it being a Madhav Tithi, and there are a lot of glories of Ekadashi. But still, I don't remember the exact reference, but there is a description of primary and secondary activities of Krishna consciousness, and Ekadashi comes in secondary. So if you could tell why it doesn't come in primary and it comes in secondary activities.
Ekadashi, I couldn't tell you. I don't know. I don't think that's so related to what we're discussing either. It's kind of a random question, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so save random questions for the end because we're talking here about Raganugabhakti. All right, so this also addresses what you raised here, that the relationship between scripture and Raganuga. So somebody please read here.
As soon as the greed manifests in him for gaining the Bhava, that of a Vrajvasis, and he develops an inclination for Raga Bhakti, the practitioner of Raganugabhakti does not depend any longer on scriptural rules and logic. However, wherever that greed has appeared, it is understood that the person must have studied the scriptures in order to attain that greed. It is also necessary to study the scriptures in order to understand the proper sadhana for Raganugabhakti.
Okay, good. So like we were saying, Raganugabhakti doesn't depend on the rules of the scriptures, but it also doesn't reject the rules of the scriptures. And in fact, in order for one to have come to the stage of Raganugabhakti, in order for one to have made that progress, one must have studied the scriptures and followed the scriptures. And then even when you come to the stage of Raganugabhakti, there are specific scriptural passages and writings which guide you through the proper practice of Raganugabhakti as well. So it's all a result of scriptural study. It's aligned with scriptural injunctions, and it has its own scriptural foundation. So we never reject the scriptures at any stage. Okay. All right, so how to practice Raganugabhakti. Here's the ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. So think of Krishna, and that's, remember we said that all the rules and regulations of the scriptures are meant for this, to always remember Krishna and never forget him. So as we progress in our Krishna consciousness, our thinking of Krishna, then there will be a devotee who is a very dear servant of Krishna, who will understand that their relationship is similar to what has awakened within oneself. So like we were saying, that one of the qualifications is that there has to be an awakening of knowledge of your own relationship with Krishna, and not just knowledge, but a greed, like he said, a greed to serve Krishna in the mood of a particular person. So that devotee that we've developed the greed to serve Krishna in their footsteps, we should hear about that devotee's relationship with Krishna and discuss their activities. And then physically or mentally, we should live in Vrindavan, because all of the Ragatmikas pretty much, except some of the Yadus or Vrishnis, most of them are in Vrindavan. So living in Vrindavan is helpful. If we can't do it physically, at least mentally. Try to think about Vrindavan, hear descriptions of Vrindavan that awaken remembrance, that kind of transport us there. And then meditate on the relationship of service between Krishna and this devotee. So meditate on how that devotee that you've chosen serves Krishna. And it said that while we're having these meditations, we shouldn't manifest them externally. That externally, you just continue acting like a Vaidhi sadhana bhakta, doing everything that new devotee does, basically. But because this whole thing is internal. And then engage in the specific angas of bhakti according to one's taste that help one to develop that specific relationship that you're aspiring for with the Lord. So out of the 64 angas, like I was saying, there are some that may really very much enhance your taste in that particular relationship. So you can do those more. You can put more time and energy and attention into those angas, those items. And then gradually you'll develop the internal sentiments of the devotee that you're following. Those things will start to manifest more and more. So that's the process. Basically, when it awakens, you start to meditate on it more. You start to hear about it more, and then you start to, choose those angas that support it, and also pray a lot and beg a lot for those internal feelings to manifest within your own heart. All right, and this whole process that was just described basically is given in the Nectar of Instruction, text 8. This is all about Raganugabhakti. So we're going to read this verse and also the purport. And so we need someone to read, or maybe we can break it up between a couple different devotees if you want. Go ahead. Sure.
क्रमेण रसना मनसी नियोच्या तिष्ठन् व्रजे तदनुरागी जनानुगामी कालं नयेदखिलम् इति उपदेशसारम्. The essence of all advice is that one should utilize one's full time, 24 hours a day, in nicely chanting and remembering the Lord's divine name, transcendental form, qualities, and eternal pastimes, thereby gradually engaging one's tongue and mind. In this way, one should reside in Vraja, Golok Vrindavan Dham, and serve Krishna under the guidance of devotees. One should follow in the footsteps of the Lord's beloved devotees who are deeply attached to his devotional service.
All right. Yeah. So in the third line here, we have a Vraje Tad Anuragi Jananugami. So this is this Anuragi. It means it's referring to Raganugabhakti. And so it has the components here that chanting, remembering the name, form, qualities, and eternal pastimes, and residing in Vraj, physically or mentally, and then serving Krishna under the guidance of devotees, which we always do. And then the particular thing of Raganuga is following in the footsteps of the Lord's beloved devotees who are deeply attached to his devotional service. So this is referring to the Ragatmikas, these Nitya Siddha devotees who are deeply, deeply attached to Krishna in a certain mode. Okay. Let's read the purport here.
In the neophyte stage, one should always engage in hearing Krishna Katha. This is called Shravana and Dasha, the stage of hearing. By constantly hearing the transcendental holy name of Krishna and hearing of his transcendental form, qualities, and pastimes, one can attain to the stage of acceptance called Varana Dasha. When one attains this stage, he becomes attached to the hearing of Krishna Katha. When one is able to chant in ecstasy, he attains the stage of Smarana Vastha, the stage of remembering. Recollection, absorption, meditation, constant remembrance, and trance are the 5 items of progressive Krishna Smarana. At first, remembrance of Krishna may be interrupted at intervals, but later remembrance proceed in uninterrupted. When remembrance is uninterrupted, it becomes concentrated and is called meditation. When meditation expands and becomes constant, it is called anusmriti. By uninterrupted and unceasing anusmriti, one enters the stage of samadhi or spiritual trance. After smrana dasha or samadhi has fully developed, the soul comes to understand his original constitutional position. At the time, he can perfectly and clearly understand his eternal relationship with Krishna. This is called Sampati Dasha, the perfection of life.
Jai. All right, do you want to keep going? There's one more part.
Yes, Mataji. Chaitanya Charitamrita advises those who are neophytes to give up all kinds of motivated desires and simply engage in the regulative devotional service of the Lord according to the directions of scriptures. In this way, a neophyte can gradually develop attachment for Krishna's name, fame, form, qualities, and so forth. When one has developed such attachment, he can spontaneously serve the lotus feet of Krishna, even without following the regulative principles. This stage is called Raga Bhakti, or devotional service in spontaneous love. At that stage, the devotee can follow in the footsteps of one of the eternal associates of Krishna and Vrindavan. This is called Raganugabhakti. Raganugabhakti, or spontaneous devotional service, can be executed in the Shanta Rasa when one aspires to be like Krishna's cow, or the stick or flute in the hand of Krishna, or the flowers around Krishna's neck. In the Dasya Rasa, one follows in the footsteps of servants like Chitraka, Patraka, and Raktaka. In the friendly Sakya Rasa, one can become a friend like Baladeva, Sridhama, or Sudama. In the Vatsalya Rasa, characterized by parental affection, one can become like Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda. And in the Madhurya Rasa, characterized by conjugal love, one can become like Srimati Radharani or her lady friends such as Lalita and her serving maids, Manjaris like Rupa and Rati. This is the sense of all instructions in the matter of devotional service.
All right, so this is the essence of all instruction. In other words, this is what we really need to understand. This is where we're going. This is where our Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti is leading. So whenever you're waking up in the morning, going to Mangal Arti, offering Arti, cooking for the deities, chanting your japa, reading, hearing class, this is where it's going. This is what we're orienting ourselves towards and becoming qualified for. And then just going back to the previous, it all comes from Krishna Katha. It all comes from hearing, constantly hearing the name of Krishna, hearing about the form of Krishna, his qualities and pastimes. And then by hearing, then that brings us to the stage of acceptance, right? There's many things that we are only hearing with our mundane intelligence, but it's not, we're not embracing it within our hearts yet. So by constant hearing, gradually we internalize it, we embrace it. It becomes firmly fixed within our hearts with full acceptance. And then we become attached. We become attached to that hearing. We want to hear more and more. And when someone's hearing, we just can't pull ourselves away from the sangha, from that katha. And then, of course, by hearing, we remember. But then that remembrance also goes through stages where maybe just, you're on your lunch break and you happen to remember something that you heard from class in the morning, or you just happen to remember it, but then you go on with your work and you forget about it. And then later, maybe you remember something else that you see something in it. It's an impetus that reminds you of Krishna. And you remember Krishna for a few minutes, and then you go back to what you were doing. So that's recollection. And then absorption is when, you get really pulled into it, and you're not distracted by anything. You're just riveted, on the katha and on the thought, on the remembrance itself. And then it progresses to meditation, where you conscientiously go into a meditation where, you kind of let your own attraction to Krishna pull you into Krishna's pastimes, and which suit the particular mood that you're oriented towards. And then, and then when that becomes constant and uninterrupted, then like anusmriti, anu means continual, and smriti means remembrance. So that it goes on. And then basically you're always just thinking of Krishna. That's called samadhi. And externally, you're still doing things. You're still going to programs, you're doing all the items of devotional service. You may also be taking care of your family and, talking to devotees, and you may even be going to work, doing something, but this thing is going on at the same time. It's like your life has two streams. You're like simultaneously living an external life like everybody else, like any other devotee, but you also have this internal life that's going on that is very private, and you don't talk about. So that's what Prabhupada means, that externally you act like a neophyte, but internally there's this anusmriti, this like ongoing remembrance of Krishna and your relationship with Krishna and service that you're doing for Krishna. And it's almost like that's your main thing. Like you identify more with that, and the external things, it's almost like you're just sort of you're in disguise. That your real self is something else, and this is just your undercover. You're like an undercover agent in this world, and you're doing things, in this like incognito, but your real self is something else, which Krishna knows, and nobody else knows. So that's an advanced stage of Raganugabhakti. Okay, so this is this is kind of what I was just talking about, that this aspect of practicing Raganugabhakti, that we still have we have two bodies. Okay, we have two identities. One is our conditioned identity, you could say, that led us to getting this body that we have now, and another is our constitutional identity. So you are aware of both, and so you act in your physical body in a certain way, and you act simultaneously in your siddha body in another way. Okay, so in the physical body, what do? We follow the conduct given by Rupa Goswami. So the 64 angas of bhakti, and doing all those things, and particularly focusing on those things that suit your taste and relationship with the Lord. But then in your siddha body, then you identify as the cowherd boy or the cowherd girl, and in your mind internally, you follow the conduct of that ragatmika bhakta that you're aspiring to be like, or to serve in your meditation. So that one is externally and the other is in meditation only. And then, so it's like very important that it's only in meditation. You don't start acting like that externally, otherwise it becomes really perverse. It just becomes, it spoils it. This is a private affair. Okay, yeah, and this is just a little note to show how individualistic devotional service is, that among the 64 angas of bhakti, that even for those practicing Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, under the heading of servitorship, devotees still serve the Lord according to their own taste and ability. So even at the very beginning levels, we're encouraged to serve Krishna according to the way we would like to serve Krishna, right? When you come to the temple, then if your management is, the temple managers are good, you say you want to offer some service, they'll say, oh, what would you like to do? You know, what service attracts you? And so you serve according to your taste. And there's also that item of offering a favorite article. So remember we talked about that it is something that you like, that you want to offer from Krishna because you think this is a nice thing. It's personal. And so, yeah, what to speak of Raganugabhakti, where again, the choice is more about what nourishes your personal tastes. But in Raganuga, it's not, the taste is not conditioned by, you know, your upbringing and your material conditioning, but it's more determined by your real eternal constitutional relationship with Krishna. Okay, then all these details of Raganugabhakti, how do we get to know about them? They're gradually revealed by the holy name, which cleanses the dust, cleanses the mirror of the heart. So if you have a mirror that's covered with dust, you look in it, you can't see anything. All you see is dust. So that's our situation. We look at ourselves now and all we see is a body and a mind and some intelligence and whatever, right? We think that's us. But the chanting, it cleans the dust off the mirror so that when we look into the mirror, we can actually see our real face, not just see a bunch of dust. So by chanting the holy name, that cleanses off all these layers of conditioning and false ego, so that when we look into our hearts at an advanced stage, we don't see a bunch of conditioning that's all gone. We can actually see who we really are in our eternal relationship with Krishna. Yes, Tarun.
Mataji, I had one doubt. Like there are two aspects. One is that nature that we have, and the other is to whom we consider our ideal, or to like whom we want to become. So it might be that our nature and inclinations, our likings might not be similar or in line with the kind of devotee we want to become. So is that fine? Because we are trying to become someone whom like we are not having that kind of nature, but still we want to become like that. So is that compatible or not?
It's fine. I mean, it all gets smoothed out as the conditioning, as our conditioned nature gets purified. It all it's not a problem. You know, it becomes kind of seamless because it's so gradual. You know, if you try to do it all of a sudden, that's why when people try to do it prematurely, it ends up being a mess. Because there will be some incompatibilities due to still having a strong identification with the false ego. And then, you know, so that's there. And then we're trying to be something else, which is very different from our false ego. Then the false ego, you know, gets upset about that. What are you doing? This is crazy. Are you gone schizophrenic or something? You know, it's like, it's unnatural. And it could even, lead to some like mental instability. But if it's, you know, if it's done properly, then it'll be fine. And even, yeah, like, so even somebody who's has a male body in this world and who is very masculine, internally can be a gopi and very feminine. So they look contradictory, right? So how do you do that? But that becomes clear at the higher stage how to do that. Aradhya Gadadhar Prabhu?
Mother, is in relation to one of the previous slides, like, you know, meditation, then, you know, upon, you know, boiling it, it comes down to anusmaranam.
Yeah.
So like, you know, we also hear there's this word anushushruva, that, you know, hearing under the, you know, disciplic succession. So we are not using the word smaranam, or and we are using this word anusmaranam. Does this mean the same, that we should be, you know, meditating under the, you know, disciplic succession?
Yeah, that's the other word of anu. Prabhupada always talks about these two words of meanings of anu. So one means continually, right? Going on and on, not just for a second. I always remember, anu means going on and on. And then anu also means following, right? Like Anuradha is a name for Lalita because she's always following Radharani. She's always by Radharani's side. So anu also means following in the previous acharyas, following the disciplic succession. Yeah. So that's what we're doing. We're not doing our independent thing. That's why, for example, like we mentioned Siddha Pranali. So that was a system, but it was rejected by our founder Acharya. So therefore, part of Anusmaranam is following the process of Raganugabhakti according to how it was presented to us by our founder Acharya. And that's why we don't do that.
And Mataji, one more thing. Yeah, thank you. Mataji, one more thing, like regarding, you know, this meditation on some devotee, you know, who is in some specific relationship that we aspire for. So, you know, like we also hear that, you know, empty mind is devil's workshop, and one should always keep oneself engaged in some sort of other service whenever there is free time.
Yeah.
Otherwise, mind will always be distracted. And then we also hear, you know, this in NOD, that, you know, one should try to meditate upon, you know, Krishna's pastimes. Although we hear this, we see or hear this thing here now in Bhakti śāstrī, but generally we don't hear about this thing from Prabhupada or any other lectures of senior devotees regarding meditation on Krishna's pastime. Of course, we do hear that South India Brahmana story, that, you know, he dipped his finger in that kheer. So how to, you know, grasp this thing, how to fathom this thing? That,
I mean, it's all over Prabhupada's books. It's just everywhere in Prabhupada's books. We just read an example of it from Nectar of Instruction, which is actually an introductory book, right? But the reason that Prabhupada didn't talk about it so much in his lectures is because, you know, when Prabhupada was here, the movement was very young and the devotees were very young. They were very new. So this is something that you'll introduce to new devotees, but you're not going to go into a lot of detail about it because, you know, he knew that it wasn't possible for them to just, you know, sit for 8 hours and hear Krishna's pastimes, or, you know, meditate all day on Krishna's transcendental form, qualities, and pastimes. You know, it wasn't possible because they're young and energetic and passionate, and they needed to engage their senses. You know, young people's strong senses. You need to work. You need to do things for Krishna with your arms and legs, and, you know, you need to work for Krishna. So Prabhupada, the way he organized the movement was with so much practical, active service. And also he had a mission, so he needed that. But even if he didn't have a mission, even if, you know, there wasn't a mission to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world, still the devotees needed to be physically engaged in that way, because it's not possible. You know, and Prabhupada would say, don't imitate Haridas Thakur going to a secluded place and think you're going to chant 100 rounds a day and meditate on Krishna. You're going to end up either just sleeping or just meditating on other things that are unfavorable. So it's at a more advanced stage that we can actually do this kind of meditation. And that's why, like in the, Prabhupada said, work now, samadhi later. So while we're young, while we're new devotees, we have to work hard. And by that work, we will become, the work itself will make us eligible. Our work in devotional service will make us eligible for this kind of meditation later on. If we don't work now, we'll never come to samadhi.
Mataji, could you please repeat what Prabhupada used to say? Just you mentioned something.
He said, work now, samadhi later.
Okay, Mataji, thank you.
This was in relation to Tamal Krishna Maharaj asking, this thing, isn't it? That, when can we also go to Mayapur and, meditate? And Prabhupada said that, this thing should be done when, teeth are gone and this is gone, this is gone. And I don't think I'm in such a state. Is that the pastime?
I'm not sure exactly, but yeah, sounds good. I don't know exactly. I couldn't tell you. Sorry.
So Mataji, finally, what is the practicality of we doing this thing in our daily lives, meditating or doing Krishna Smaranam or meditating on his pastimes?
There's no harm in hearing. It starts with hearing. That's what I was saying here, that Prabhupada writes here that in the neophyte stage, one should always engage in hearing Krishna Katha. So whatever you're doing, if you're, as soon as you wake up in the morning, you play some lecture, some class or some Katha. Now there's so much Katha from different devotees. Radha Swami is always speaking Katha. That's what he does. He tells stories of Lord Chaitanya and like that, his associates. So always hear some Krishna Katha. And then from that, everything else comes. So if you're going to work, you're cooking, you're whatever, just always keep something, always be hearing as much as you can, or chanting. Yesterday we had an 8-hour drive from Charleston, North Carolina to Washington, DC. And so we were there, myself and one friend in the car. And so we were switching the driving. So I was getting tired. I was like, nodding and driving. And I said, tell me something interesting so I'll stay awake. And she said, what is interesting? I don't know. I don't have anything interesting to say. I said, okay, just describe Krishna from his feet to his head. And then she went to so she spent about an hour just describing like the details, Krishna's lotus feet, his toenails, his ankles, his knees, all the way up, in full detail. And it was nice. I stayed awake. And I was having I was driving and having this meditation. I was like seeing the road and at the same time in my mind seeing Krishna. So like that, just have a friend next to you, a devotee, and ask them, tell me something about Krishna. Just describe Krishna. Describe Krishna's face. Describe the clothes that Krishna wears. Describe, what does Krishna do at this time of day, whatever. Tell me this pastime. Like that. You need to be a little proactive, we can't just be passive and just wait around for someone to come and like inject Krishna into our ears and hearts. We have to be greedy. That's what it means. We have to be greedy for this. Prabhu, tell me about Krishna. Yeah. Okay. We have to go.
And Mataji, just one small thing.
Yeah.
Like we also hear that many times what's written in scriptures and its practicality, especially in his ISKCON, might be in a very specific direction or in a specific detail. For an example, many times we see in scriptures it's written that we should follow in the footsteps of gopis and or in the footsteps of these devotees. And like one time Prabhupada told that I am that Vrindavan devotee whom you all should follow.
Yeah.
So many times we see that in such dealings with Prabhupada, that what's written in scriptures should be done in a specific way when we are a Prabhupada. So in regard to so in regard to this also I wanted to ask regarding when such things comes that, meditating on Krishna's pastimes or, going deeper, and, when will that day come that when I will read the Six Goswami's book,
Yeah.
that, song?
It's like I was saying, both are simultaneous, that like, in your physical body, you follow the conduct of Rupa Goswami, what the Rupa Goswami has told us how to practice devotional service. So that's, Prabhupada said, you follow me. I am that person, you should follow the example. He's our founder Acharya. So he's told us to follow the conduct given by Rupa Goswami. He says that we are Rupanugas, right? But we are Prabhupada, we call ourselves Prabhupada-nugas. Prabhupada didn't say that, we said that because that's the fact. But being a Prabhupada-nuga means doing what Prabhupada says, and Prabhupada says that we are Rupanugas. So we're simultaneously both, because that's the beauty of disciplic succession, that by being a Prabhupada-nuga, we're automatically Rupanugas, because he is a Rupanuga. So if you follow him, we're following the person that he's following also. So yeah, and Rupa Goswami has given us these processes, and Prabhupada also has given us these processes. By giving us the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, this is what he's given us. How can you say that Prabhupada didn't give us this when he gave us the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which is giving this? And in his purport, in the purport, he could have written, actually, this is not what's to be followed, don't worry about this. Just chant Hare Krishna and go distribute books. He didn't write that. He answered, this is the essence of all instruction. Right? So you can't say that Prabhupada didn't say that. Prabhupada very clearly says it. And he says, follow Nanda Maharaj, Mother Yashoda, servants like Raktaka, Patraka, and, like that. Or you can be like Krishna's flute or Krishna's stick, whatever. So, okay, we have to go on. So the holy name, we have to chant the holy name, and then also hearing and meditating deeply on what we hear. Like somebody said very beautifully, who was it? Said the other day that we should hear like a cow eats. One of you said that. Whoever was.
Mataji, I guess I asked a question in relation to this previously.
No, I'm saying somebody, whoever was presenting the when you did group presentations about the 5 potent processes of devotional service, one of the devotees who was speaking in relation to hearing Srimad Bhagavatam said we should hear like a cow eats, means the cow swallows it and then after passes all day chewing on it. Right? So we should hear, say you hear something in the morning Srimad Bhagavatam class, and then stay all day just thinking about it, remembering it and reflecting on it and like that. So we should hear and meditate deeply on what we have heard. And we just saw that in these progressive stages of Krishna Smaranam. And then also things are revealed by the guidance of senior devotees who are in a similar mood. So like if your mood in relation to Krishna has awakened, then Krishna will help you to come in contact with another devotee or who has that similar mood. And then you can sometimes discuss these things together. Services that you would like to do, and they can also, you can sometimes speak about those things in private. That's Guyam Akyati Prichati. Okay, so we're getting behind schedule. We're going to have to go a little faster now. So just as there's 2 categories of Ragatmika Bhakti, the Kama Rupa and the Sambandha Rupa, so there are correspondingly 2 types of Raganugabhakti, which are Kama-nuga and Sambandha-nuga. So Kama-nuga follows in the wake of the Kama Rupa devotees, the gopis of Vrindavan, and Sambandha-nuga is Bhakti that follows in the wake of those who are in other relationships, like parental and friendship and servitude. So amongst the Kam-anuga Raganuga Bhaktas, who are all in Madhurya Rasa, there are 2 types. So one is, Prabhupada calls them direct. Rupa Goswami uses a Sanskrit word here, Sambhog Echa Mai Bhakti. So Sambhoga means you're together, you're in the person's association, sambhog, as opposed to vipulanga, and icha means desire. So your desire is to be directly with Krishna. And that's, yeah, characterized by enjoying conjugally with Krishna. And then the other one is indirect, tad bhav echatmika. So bhava means the mood. So you desire not necessarily to, interact directly with Krishna, but you desire to follow in the mood of those who do. Characterized by the desiring the sweet mood of love of the Kamarupa Siddha devotees. Okay. And then there was a mention there about whether because Kamarupa means conjugal affection, that could be as a gopi or as a queen. So a person who serves on the path of Vaidhi Bhakti, who wants a conjugal relationship with the Lord and a high position, and also this has some tinge of awe and reverence, then, because it's about Krishna's high position, that that he's the Lord, he's the king of Dwarka or whatever. So, but their desire is not with the gopis type of love. So then you'll end up as a queen, a servant. You won't be a queen of Dwarka, but you'll serve Krishna in that same mood. And it's not technically Raganuga, like, because it has the reverence feature. All right, then practicing devotees greedy for parental, friendly, or servant relationships perform this bhakti with indications of the behavior and mood of Nanda, Subal, and others. All right, so those are that's the relationship. And then, like I mentioned, it doesn't matter if you're male or female. Males can aspire to be like Krishna's gopis, and women can also aspire to be like the cowherd boys. And this was stated previously too, that we should desire to follow in the footsteps of that exalted devotee and serve them, rather than, we should not want to be them, because wanting their position directly can be impersonal, because it's like if you say, I want to be Mother Yashoda, I want to be, Lalita Saki, that's impersonal, because you can't be them. One person cannot be another person. Everybody is eternally individual. And it can be displeasing to that devotee, because they can start to see you as like a competitor. Like, I want to be Lalita Saki, then Lalita is going to be like, wait, you're not going to be me, forget that, get out of here. Right? So we don't want Lalita Saki telling us to get out of here. We want her to be like, come, join, we have service for you here. And then the cause of Raganuga ultimately is the mercy of Krishna and his devotees. It's the only cause of attaining Raganugabhakti, because it can't start unless that awakening has happened. And that can only happen, that happens by the mercy of Krishna. There's nothing, we cannot make it happen. We can practice Vaidhi sadhana bhakti really nicely with the hope and prayer that it will happen, but ultimately we're totally dependent on Krishna. And our only hope is that Krishna is controlled by the love of his pure devotees. So if we can get the mercy of a pure devotee who will ask on our behalf for Krishna to awaken our knowledge in this regard, then Krishna may say yes. Yeah, so this devotion is sometimes called Pushtimar because it's nourishment. It's directly nourished by Krishna. All right. Oh my goodness, this class is going to go late. But I think this is good to do this. Let's do this. So this is, you need to respond to these. So I'm going to read these statements, and then you need to evaluate whether they are favorable or unfavorable, or under some conditions they might be favorable, and under other conditions they may be unfavorable. Rukmini Harisevana, you have a question first?
Is still little more pushti mark.
Yeah.
Pushti mark.
What about it?
Can you please tell a little more about pushti mark? I didn't understand.
Oh, it's just, if you look at the last paragraph, the very end of chapter 16, Prabhupada writes, this process of devotional service is sometimes called pushti marg. Pushti means nourishing. and marg means path. Such development of sentiment nourishes devotional service to the highest standard. So he's just using a literal translation there, that when our spontaneous attraction to Krishna is awakened, then it nourishes our devotional service. It's a huge impetus to serving Krishna. So that's why he calls it Pushti Marg. All right, so let's do this. I think this will be fun. Okay, so here we go. I'm Raganuga Devidasi. I'm looking forward to the day when I'm no longer bound by the regulative principles.
Unfavorable, Mataji.
Unfavorable. Mataji.
Unfavorable.
Okay, why do you say that?
This statement is absolutely wrong, Mataji. Actually, following the regulative principles becomes a habit if we go to the advanced stages in the devotional practices. So we should not look forward to the day when we are no longer bound by the regulative principles.
Yes. Another thing, okay, anything else? Did someone want to say something in addition?
If you're looking, if you're wanting not to follow any regulative principles, that is not Raganugabhakti.
Right. Yeah, that's just nonsense. You're just a rascal. It means you want to break the regulative principles. Okay, so anything else?
The regulative principles are the reason, we reach to that stage, but we should never forget them.
Yes, good. Yeah. Without the regulative principles, we would be nowhere. And even reaching that stage, what about the regulative principles?
They should not be forgotten, Mataji.
Right, we should continue.
Because they are the one who led us there. So they are the one who are going to take us forward as well.
Exactly, yeah. And then also she's thinking that she's bound by the regulative principles, but Krishna says that it's regulative principles of freedom. These regulative principles are what's freeing us from bondage. Okay, good. Next. So here's a little conversation. Prema Siddhi Ananda Das. Do you know your relationship with Krishna? Bhakta Fred. Well, I realized that I'm his servant, I guess. Prema Siddhi Ananda Das. Yes, that's true, but we can't all remain on the neophyte platform. Some of us have to set the example and advance in Krishna consciousness. We can't just preach, and ignore our own inner development. We have to realize our Swarup Siddhi and find someone who can point it out to us.
Unfavorable, Mataji.
Okay, why?
I mean, if we are hankering for this, that we get so focused on this, that's again, Prabhupada discourages this. He wants us to stay on the path that he has showed us. And if we stay on that path and we keep on following it, then we'll gradually grow. We don't need the Siddha Pranali and everything. As you were telling before also.
Right.
So we need to follow the rules. We need to follow the regulative principles as we were discussing before. So that we can, rise on the platform, but not like this.
Okay. Mataji, like here it is written that Prema Siddhi Ananda Das is saying that we cannot just preach and ignore our own inner development. This statement is absolutely wrong actually. Guru Maharaj and Prabhupada always has said that preaching only will bring your inner development. Preaching is the essence.
Yeah.
And utility is the principle.
Right. Yeah, preaching is the fastest way to catalyze our internal development.
Mataji, but one thing more that, like this preach and ignore our inner development. From one sense, it is right that many a times we see devotees are too much keen on preaching and they forget their own sadhana in terms of preaching. And we also hear Prabhupada saying in the end that now we should start boiling the milk. So in that sense, this statement appears to be 10% correct.
Okay, good. This is what I was hoping for. So this is evaluation. That in some ways, in some contexts, in some conditions, it's wrong. But in other ways, it's actually right. So this is actually true that we can't just preach and ignore our inner development. We need to also, focus on chanting attentively on taking time out to hear about Krishna and to meditate on Krishna. And that also has to be there. We have to have balanced spiritual lives. Is there anything else from this statement that is true, that is favorable?
Mataji, I have a question, after Radha Gadadhar Prabhu's statement, So when we're preaching, aren't we thinking and meditating on Krishna himself? Because all we're doing is we're forwarding the message of Krishna consciousness. So how can you forget? I understand that we should not ignore our sadhana and everything. Because if you're ignoring your sadhana for preaching, that's creating an imbalance. But when you're preaching also, then you are eventually remembering Krishna. You're spreading name of Krishna, and so how do you reconcile this?
Yes, Mataji, I will also say the same like Priya Satyabhama Mataji is saying, and I don't agree with Radha Gadadhar Prabhu. A preacher cannot preach unless and until he is strong in sadhana. Yes, Mataji.
I second that.
Okay. So how does he become strong in sadhana?
So one has to perform his or her own sadhana very, very, very perfectly. If he has to preach, go out, even if one is a book distributor, if he or she has to go out to distribute the books, so he or she will not be successful unless and until he is strong in sadhana. And sadhana can be done by chanting nicely, chanting attentively, and reading Prabhupada books, and of course following the 64 angas of the bhakti as much as possible.
Right. So this is all inner development, right? The chanting and the reading and so it's true that we can't just preach and ignore inner development. We need to preach, and also and preaching does help our internal development, our inner development. But then there are other things that are not preaching that we still need to do to take care of our inner development. So we shouldn't ignore our inner development, and we shouldn't also ignore the preaching. We should do both in a balanced way. Okay. And ultimately, it's true that we do have to realize our Swarup Siddhi, but in proper time. We should have an interest in that. We should have that as a goal for some stage in the future when we are ready. We don't necessarily have to find someone who can point it out to us, definitely not at an immature stage, but we do need guidance on that. So we can, when we come to the stage, then we should find someone who can guide us in that. Okay.
Mataji, one thing more I would like to mention here. My spiritual master, His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, always says that if you are not preaching, then you are following Krishna consciousness only at the 50%. If you want to follow the Krishna consciousness process absolutely or 100%, then you will have to preach.
Yeah.
But along with that, you will have to maintain your sadhana also.
Yes. So that's what I'm saying, that both of them, internal development and external preaching, because if we're not developing internally, then what do we have to offer?
Mataji, can I ask a question? That this is a very corporate question, that in ISKCON, do you have a process where you have feedback for senior people who are preaching and who are at a senior level? So it talks about that, we need to realize ourselves and our inner development and find someone who can point it to us. Now, what does that mean? Is it that they're looking for feedback on how they can develop?
I think the way he says pointed out to us, he's referring to Siddha Pranali here. So that's not favorable. That's not what we want to do. But like you're saying, yeah, the thing is, at every stage of spiritual advancement, we need guidance. We need support from senior devotees. So I think we can take that as a favorable thing. We can just adjust what he says a little bit, that we don't need someone to point tell us who we are, but we just need to tell us someone to guide us in how we can progress.
So does it happen in ISKCON, or it is an aspiration?
Like I said, when the disciple is ready, the guru appears. So I don't think that I know of, there's nothing formal. There's no formalized, you know, structure within ISKCON of mentorships for devotees on the level of Raganugabhakti. Right? There's nowhere that you know, like now if someone's ready for initiation, then here are the people you can approach and they can initiate you, right? These are the Diksha Gurus in ISKCON. But there's nothing where, oh, if you had this awakening, you know your constitutional position, you want to practice Raganugabhakti, okay, such and such, you know, Prabhus or Matajis or Maharajas, they can guide you. We don't have that yet. So, I mean, because the thing is, it's such an internal thing that, and nobody talks about it. It's something that it happens by Krishna's arrangement. Krishna puts people in touch with who they need to be in touch with. I don't think it's ever going to become something institutionalized. I mean, you never know. Because the thing is, some people may be just frauds and they can kind of like misguide you. So maybe it's kind of in the future, we'll have to have some system for that to protect devotees, but so far, no. Okay, can we go to the next? TV interviewer. How do you feel when you chant Hare Krishna? Paramanandamaya Das. Well, Lord Chaitanya says, oh my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? His voice used to choke up and the hairs of his body stand on end. Really blissful.
Favorable.
You say favorable, why?
Because he's not, I mean, having any such expectation from chanting Hare Krishna, and he's just seeing the real mood when whilst chanting Hare Krishna. So this is the real mood that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to have, and you know, I am also following in the footsteps. I also feel bliss, spiritual bliss when I'm chanting.
Okay.
Simple.
Mataji, I feel unfavorable because TV interview might not be able to understand these emotions, and he might not know his Lord Chaitanya, and like tears flowing from my eyes. So he might not be able to relate and appreciate this kind of mood.
Okay, so you're saying, so it's nice that he's quoting Lord Chaitanya, how the ideal devotee feels when he chants Hare Krishna, but it's not favorable in the context, speaking like that to an TV interviewer who knows nothing about. Yeah. Okay, I agree with that too. Anything else?
Yes, Mataji, I also agree with Tarun Prabhuji's point that in front of a TV interviewer, we cannot, it seems to be that the devotee is trying to show off that like how, what kind of feelings come after chanting, like, but the interviewer would not be able to appreciate that. I think they might feel that this is like some kind of a show off.
Yeah, and also he asked, how do you feel when you chant Hare Krishna? He didn't ask, how are you supposed to feel, or how does a pure devotee feel, or how does, you know, he asked, how do you feel? So he wanted a personal, like, you know, the answer from that individual. And then he gives this answer that's not how he feels, but it's how someone else feels. And it's almost like he's kind of, he's saying Lord Chaitanya's feelings as if they were his own, although he probably doesn't exactly, you know, feel that way. So it's a little bit of imitation there, that, oh yeah, tears of love flowing constantly from my eyes and very blissful. So yeah, it's a little bit lacking personal integrity. Okay. All right. I think this is the last one. Prema Lila Ananda Devi Dasi. Srila Prabhupada did a wonderful job starting Krishna consciousness with hippies and people like that. Now we have to go further, go beyond sadhana bhakti. After all, it's just for beginners. Now we have to start relishing our loving relationship with Krishna.
Unfavorable, Mataji, absolutely.
I also feel it's unfavorable because you can't say it's with hippies and people like that. I mean, it's really a very casual statement. It might be in the Western world that they started with this, but then, you know, we have a lot of other people who join the society. It is
it also feels
Mataji,
like
Sadhana
she's
Bhakti,
trying
Sadhana Bhakti. Carry on, Mataji.
It also feels like she's trying to jump the gun like, okay, we started with this, but let's get to the good part now. Let's get to the good part now. So kind of not following the process and just jumping.
Also, Mataji, it is not like that Prabhupada gave us something which has only a beginning. He gave us a complete process from starting to till end.
Good. Yeah. Srila
Sadhana
Prabhupada.
Bhakti, Mataji, Sadhana Bhakti is meant for everyone. It's not meant for only Westerners or someone else. It's meant for everyone. Like we are reading also in Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. Sadhana Bhakti is the only process which can lead us to Raganugabhakti ultimately. So we cannot relish our loving relationship with Krishna by our own, on our own, or by any other method. If we set aside this sadhana bhakti, we cannot reach that stage of loving relationship, relishing that.
Exactly. Yes. Good. And also the people who are, joining nowadays, they're basically not much better than, or if any, or maybe they're even worse than the hippies and people like that Prabhupada started Krishna consciousness with, right? So they still need all the beginning stuff. The beginning always has to be there. And like you said, yeah, what Prabhupada gave it's not just for beginners, it's for everyone. And by doing that, then we will come to relish our loving relationship with Krishna. So we don't give it up. It's not just for neophytes or people who are very fallen. Even at the highest stages, we're going to continue doing the same things. Okay, good. So that ends the second wave in the eastern section of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu concerning Sadhana Bhakti. So there were 3 stages of Bhakti, remember? What are they?
Sadhana Bhakti, Bhakti, and Prema Bhakti.
Right. So we talked about Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti and we talked about Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti. Those are the 2 stages of Sadhana Bhakti. And now we're going to go into Bhava Bhakti. This class is going to go over time, so brace yourselves. I wasn't expecting so many questions. I thought this high topic everyone's just going to hear, but it's nice. I like the questions. Okay, and this will be even higher. So Bhava Bhakti is chapter 7 and 18. And these 2 chapters comprise the 3rd wave. So the first wave, or the second wave was Sadhana Bhakti. That was a very big wave. And now this is a small wave, just chapters 17 and 18. And then the 4th wave is only 1 short chapter. Prema Bhakti is only chapter 19, and it's the shortest of the chapters, I think. So, but we have 2 chapters about Bhava Bhakti, or the devotional service in ecstasy, which is the preliminary stage of prema, preliminary stage of love of God. And so chapter 17 is going to start off telling us what Bhava is. It's going to define Bhava Bhakti and talk about how we can attain it. Gaurav, do you have your hand up, or is that from before?
Hare Krishna. Mataji, the topic has, we have crossed that part, so I think I can tell that comment at the end. That will be better.
The topic? Oh, so yeah, so chapter 17 and 18 cover Bhava Bhakti.
Yeah, so we have moved ahead, so I think I can prevent that comment as of now. That question as of now.
What part did
if you want, I can ask it. Just a small thing. I just want to. Am I audible, Mataji? First of all, am I audible?
Yeah, your voice was also breaking up. I don't know if it's my end or your end breaking. Are others hearing my voice broken?
Is it better?
Yes, better now.
Yeah. So I was just asking regarding I was asking a question regarding the point that we were discussing on whether to preach or whether to cultivate our own internal sadhana. So I just wanted to say, like, sometimes we see that when we preach, that also makes us force us to become a better, to do our sadhana sincerely.
Yes.
Because while preaching, the people or the devotees whom we are preaching, they are looking up to us, and that makes us in a way forced us to be properly spiritually situated. So in that manner, I think preaching also makes us automatically makes our sadhana automatically good if we are taking into consideration that point that we are becoming.
That's a very good point. Yeah, because in preaching, purity is the force. So the more pure we are, the more impactful our preaching will be. So then if we really want to be good preachers, effective preachers, then we need to work on our internal purity. That for the benefit of, not just for our own benefit as for becoming pure devotees ourselves, but for the benefit of others, so that we can actually have an effect and convince them and turn their hearts towards Krishna consciousness. Right? Okay, thank you for that. All right, so let's dive into chapter 17, Bhava Bhakti, what it is and how to attain it. So here we have the definition. This is from the very first verse from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu on the topic of Bhava Bhakti. Shuddha sattva visheshatma prema suryam shu samyabhak ruchibis chittamasrinya krid aso bhava uchyate. So uchyate means, it's defined bhava uchyate. This is bhava. So here's what he's saying. When devotional service is situated on the transcendental platform of pure goodness, it is like a ray of sunlight of love for Krishna. At such a time, devotional service causes the heart to be softened by various tastes, and it is called bhava, or emotion. It's also quoted, it's in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, because this was Lord Chaitanya instructed, I believe, Sanatana Goswami. And then Rupa Goswami writes the same verse in his book. So he's quoting the Lord Chaitanya's definition of Bhava Bhakti. So this is very authorized, spoken by the Lord himself. So we have these features. The first thing is Shuddha Sattva. You see here the first line, Shuddha Sattva Visheshatma. So just like in pure devotional service, we had the primary characteristics and the secondary characteristics, right? The Swarup Lakshana and the Tatashta Lakshana. So we have that for Bhava Bhakti also. So the first two here, Shuddha Sattva Visheshatma and Prema Suryamshu Samyabhak, are the two primary characteristics. And then Ruchibis Chitta Mastrinya, that's the secondary, because that's like the effect of it. So we're going to look at these separately. So first of all, Shuddha Sattva Visheshatma. It's the stage wherein Shuddha Sattva enters the devotee's heart. Shuddha Sattva is not the material mode of goodness, but the Lord's internal potency, whose function is to revive the living entity's dormant love for Krishna. So remember how we were talking at the end of the last chapter about how Raganugabhakti is like the cause is the mercy of the Lord. And the mercy of the Lord and the pure devotee go hand in hand, because by the mercy of the pure devotee, we get the mercy of the Lord. Yasya prasadad, bhagavad prasadad. So this is how the mercy of the Lord manifests. Now this is what the Lord does when he decides that he's going to be very merciful to us. What he does is he basically sends this Shuddha Sattva potency, his internal potency, into our hearts, and it revives our dormant love for him. Okay, we are going to look more at this. This is a complicated topic. Shuddha Sattva Visheshatma. So continuing with this topic. If love of God is inherent within us, then why does the Lord's internal potency need to enter our hearts to revive it? One could ask. So then the answer is that because we are offenders, having turned our backs on Krishna. So the love is there, but it's temporarily, presently blocked by the Lord's superior energy due to our own desire. So that thing which blocks it is basically Maya, Krishna's Maya potency. And it's blocked because we wanted it to be blocked, because we wanted to forget Krishna. So then he says, okay, you want to forget me? then he engages Maya in blocking our remembrance of him and blocking our love for him. So then that's the reason why we don't know what our relationship with Krishna is. We feel like, you know, we don't even have we don't feel a connection to Krishna. So then now we're coming to our senses, we're hearing from scriptures, we're hearing from devotees that we do have this relationship, that our purpose in life now, the task before us is to revive this relationship. So if there's a relationship where one person was acting appropriately and then the other person committed an offense, it's the duty of the offender to go and approach the offended person and beg to revive the relationship, right? So it says here, the offended party needs to be the one who decides. So the person who was offended, now Krishna is the one we offended. So then it's up to him. He's going to decide that, okay, I agree that we can start this relationship again. It's not up to us. We can do everything that we can to convince him that he can trust us now, that we're going to be loyal to him, that we're going to serve him. We're not going to reject him again. We're not going to turn our back and go away from him again. And when we convince him of that, then he'll say, okay, then I agree we can have this relationship again. Let's try again. I accept you. And when he accepts us, then he removes Mahamaya that's blocking our love. And then, so when that's removed, then our love again starts to flow. And that's basically the more esoteric meaning of this verse from Bhagavad Gita, Daivi Yesha Gunamayi, Mama Maya Dharatyaya, Mame Veye Prapadyante, Mayam Etam Tarantite. This divine energy of mind consisting of the three modes of material nature is difficult to overcome, but those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. Why? Because when we surrender to Krishna, and when Krishna accepts our surrender, then he removes it. And then we can cross over it and we can start the relationship again. So
Mataji, can we say that in other words, it's all a matter of mercy, Krishna's mercy?
Yes, but we have to convince Krishna to be merciful to us.
Okay, Mataji.
So that's our part. Our part, all we're doing, everything that we do is just to convince Krishna to be merciful to us and do this for us.
Okay, thank you, Mataji.
Okay, so here, how Bhava Bhakti develops from Sadhana Bhakti and Shuddha Sattva. So yeah, so just like I was saying, so it's the combination of endeavor and mercy. The endeavor is Sadhana Bhakti. That's our endeavor, doing these 64 things in a mood of surrender. And then the mercy is the action of the Shuddha Sattva, the Lord's internal potency on his order. Okay, so now we're going to go through a little flow chart. So the first thing is surrender to Krishna by performing the 64 items of Sadhana Bhakti with a repentant heart, right? Like realizing that, oh my Krishna, I did such a bad thing. You know, rejecting Krishna and coming to this world thinking that I'll be happy without him. So we have to really repent that Krishna, I made a huge mistake. I'm so sorry. I was so stupid, you know, like that. And then have an intense longing to reestablish our loving relationship with Krishna. Okay. So then through our sadhana, two things are achieved. One thing is that we demonstrate to Krishna that he can trust us, that now we're fully surrendered. We're no longer selfish. We're no longer thinking of our own enjoyment. We just want to please Krishna in loving surrender. And two, it puts us in a position to receive his grace, because the grace comes through, because the grace manifests through the items of sadhana, through guru, through the devotees, through the Bhagavatam, through the deity, through the holy name, through the Dham, all these 5 potent processes that we talked about. And that's why those 5 processes are potent, because it's through those 5 processes that Krishna's mercy manifests in our lives. Those are the vehicles or the via mediums by which the internal potency is conveyed. and is received by us. And those are all items of sadhana. So sadhana proves to Krishna that he can trust us and that we're suitable candidates for his mercy. And then sadhana bhakti enables us to receive the mercy, because it's through the items of sadhana bhakti that we receive the mercy. Okay. All right. So then now Krishna has decided, I'm going to accept this person and I'm going to give them the mercy. So then the first thing he does is that he removes the Maya that's blocking us. And then after freeing us from Mahamaya, then he graces us with Shuddha Sattva, which in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Shuddha Sattva is defined as a state of consciousness in which all three of his internal energies are simultaneously manifest. And these internal energies are personified by Srimati Radharani. So this is like, in one sense, you could say, if you want to talk about it in terms of personalities, you could say that when Krishna is merciful, then the internal potency, which is represented by Srimati Radharani, Srimati Radharani gives us shelter, and she gives us inspiration, and she enlivens us in bhakti. Okay, and this happens through these three internal potencies, which are Sandhini Shakti, the Sat potency, the energy of eternal existence, which awakens our eternal identity. So remember, that this had to happen already in Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti, that your eternal identity is awakened. So that's the beginning. And then the Samvit Shakti, the Chit potency or knowledge-giving energy, which awakens our knowledge of Krishna. So we have more of a revelation of Krishna. Swayam eva sparatyada, right? Krishna reveals himself. And then Hladini Shakti, the Ananda. And this is where Srimati Radharani is mostly represented, because she's the actual personification of this particular Shakti, which is the pleasure-giving energy, which awakens our blissful love for Krishna. So without the help of Srimati Radharani, we cannot love Krishna. Yes, Ras Raman Krishna Prabhu.
Mataji, I have a question. I must say, first of all, this is quite enlightening chart. I really enjoyed it. I learned a lot through this chart. My question, Mataji, is that how long we will have to repent, and how long will Krishna take to shower his mercy over us?
Yeah, that's the question we're all asking, right? When, oh, when will that day be mine? You know that song by Bhaktivinoda Thakur? Kave have bala se dinamar. When will that day come? So when Krishna wants, that's all. We just have to be patient. That's why Rupa Goswami teaches us there that utsaha nishchayat daryat, that enthusiasm, confidence, and patience. So we have to do our devotional service with enthusiasm, with full confidence that Krishna will be merciful, right? We saw that also, expecting the Lord's mercy. That's an actual item of devotional service. We have to expect the Lord's mercy and be confident one day he will be merciful if I just keep doing this. But then patience. We need to be patient and just keep going with determination and perseverance until that day comes.
Okay, Mataji. Thank you.
Okay, that's up to Krishna. Okay, so then what happens when this Shuddha Sattva, this state of consciousness, which entails all these three energies, enters the heart? So the action of these Shaktis melts the heart. Melts the heart and causes ecstatic emotions, which Bhava, that's what Bhava is ecstatic emotions, to arise. It causes Bhava to arise. And devotional service that's performed in this exalted state, in which one's heart is infused with these three energies, and the heart is melted, and ecstatic emotion, love for Krishna is like arising within the heart. That when we do devotional service in that state of consciousness, that's called Bhava Bhakti. Okay, so that's Bhava Bhakti. That's the meaning of Shuddha Sattva Visheshatma. Okay, so now we're going on to, oh yeah, and Prabhupada says that when a person reaches the level of bhava, then they're understood to be uttama adhikaris. Someone was asking about that. All right, now the other primary characteristic of bhava is prema soyamshu samyabhak, that it is a ray of the sun of prem. So you can see here in the picture that the sun hasn't risen yet in this picture, but you can see the rays are already there. So when you're sitting and looking, waiting for the sun to rise, and you see those rays coming, what does that tell you?
Sun is about to come.
The sun is about to come.
Exactly. The sun is about to come. It's going to appear any second. So yeah, bhava is the onset of prema, as dawn is the onset of day. So when the first rays of the sun appear on the eastern horizon, you can be sure that the sun will soon rise. In the same way, when one attains bhava, the full light of prema will manifest very quickly. So whereas sadhana bhakti takes an awful long time, it's a slow progression. Because we're uprooting deep-rooted anarthas and all these things, it takes long times and it may take lifetimes. But as soon as we get to these higher levels, then it's very quick. Bhava very quickly leads to prema because these emotions are intense and they give you an experience, and it's just very fast. Because once Krishna has bestowed his mercy, there's nothing stopping you. And that's why Prabhupada said that the level, when one comes to the bhava stage, one does not fall down, because one has achieved the mercy, there's this emotion, there's love for Krishna. It's like, there's no turning back after that.
Mataji, may I ask a question?
Yeah. Is it going to be about Bharat Maharaj? Go ahead.
Mataji, like you said just now, that sadhana bhakti is a gradual process. While
Yes.
bhava is a quick process, it can fructify into love, prema very soon. So
Yeah.
how can we make sadhana bhakti also a quick process? Is it possible?
Well, it just depends, you can make it a quick process by being, for example, by doing it with quality.
Okay.
For example,
bhakti yogena, like that.
Exactly, yeah, doing it with a lot of force. And like when you chant, for example, when you chant japa, don't just chant, but chant attentively, chant with your heart, chant with calling out to Krishna, like, so, go deep, do it with quality, with full attention. And that will.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so now the secondary characteristics of bhava is this. This is two things, but one leads to the other. So they're kind of one thing. Ruchibis chitta masrinyakrit means it softens the heart and gives rise to various tastes. So it's kind of like when the butter is melting. So when you take a block of butter from your fridge, it's cold and it's hard, and you can't do much with it. It has to melt in order for the flavor. We can only taste the butter when it melts on the tongue, right? When it's just that cold, hard block, you don't taste it yet. It just feels cold. So when the heart is softened, when it's melted, then these tastes come out. And in the verse here, he uses the word ruchi, which means taste, but then later in the description, he speaks of them as desires, so abhilash. And so there's three varieties of tastes or ecstatic desires. And one is prapti abhilash, the desire to achieve Krishna, becomes very, very strong. Then anukulya abhilash, desire to please Krishna with various services. Remember, we had this anukulya and Krishna, the cultivation. So it's about doing favorable services for Krishna, pleasing services. And then soharda abhilash means a desire to be close at heart with Krishna. So you want to achieve Krishna, you want to please Krishna with your service, and you want to be close at heart. You want to have an intimate relationship with Krishna. So these all come from.
Mataji, isn't the B part the best one out of these three? Can we say so?
I don't know. I didn't think of them in terms of good, better, and best. I'd say they're all pretty good. If we have any of those, we're doing well. Rukmini, how do you say your name?
Mataji, in the previous sessions, once you said another instead of achieving Krishna, desire to achieve Krishna. I am not able to recall that. Will you be able to tell, please? Achieve Krishna is something like we want to achieve something, but it's not achieving Krishna. So I forgot that word. If you can please tell again.
Yeah, we were talking about that, right? That in terms of the 5 kinds of liberation, there was one that was having the constant association of Krishna, Samipya. So, and then, yeah, we had that discussion that it's still, there can be selfishness there, that I want to be with Krishna so that I can be happy, right? Because Krishna is cool, because Krishna is wonderful, because Krishna is beautiful. If I'm with him, I'll be happy. So there, when it's a desire for liberation, when what you really want is liberation, but that liberation entails being with Krishna, then it's a nice liberation, right? But still the focus is on you want to be liberation, you want freedom from material distress. That's why you want to be with Krishna. Whereas at this stage, the stage of Bhava Bhakti, this desire to achieve Krishna is because you want to please him, because you want to serve him. It's coming from emotion. It's not coming from like disgust with the material world, or wanting to be free from that and just wanting to be happy. Okay,
thank you.
All right. So then in the Nectar Devotion, Prabhupada uses these words, executive devotional service and effective devotional service. And it's a little confusing. Srila Prabhupada mentions a few times that when he was translating this book from Sanskrit into English, translating Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, many of the Sanskrit words don't have English equivalents. And so he was trying his best to use words that conveyed the meaning which Rupa Goswami was intending to convey. But if we apply the meaning of the word executive, it doesn't exactly mean what Prabhupada meant it to mean here, right? And even effective, like if we say that something's effective, it means it works, like it brings about the effect. But that's not what Prabhupada means. If we say executive, we think, like a CEO of a corporation or something, executive role. That's not what Prabhupada's talking about. So I just wanted to take some time to clarify these terms. So sadhana bhakti is called executive because it consists of actions that one executes or performs, right? Like you execute devotional service. So when you say, I'm going to execute devotional service, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to perform. Okay, that's what you meant by that. And then Bhava Bhakti is called effective because it is the effect of sadhana. And that those ecstatic emotions are awakened. So you execute devotional service, and the effect of that execution is Bhava Bhakti. Your emotions, ecstatic emotions for Krishna arise in the heart. In Bhava Bhakti, sadhana and service continue, but now they are inspired not by regulative principles, but by one's bhava. Yeah, so we were talking about how in Raganugabhakti that your service for Krishna was not, it didn't depend on the rules, but it was going to happen anyway, whether the rules were there or not, you were just going to do it, right? Because you're just spontaneously impelled to serve Krishna, to do those items. So in Bhava Bhakti, it takes another step up. It's the next level, where it's not just spontaneous attraction, but it's actually motivated by emotion, and that your service is in itself an expression of love, which is called an anubhava, which is in relation to your eternal relationship with Krishna. Now I'm going to show you something. This is from actually the next ocean of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, but it helps you understand how service in Bhava Bhakti is different from service in Sadhana Bhakti. So yeah, so these are the 5 components of rasa. And so it starts with some stimulus, vibhava, something stimulates your love for Krishna. Like the gopis, if you look at the gopis, they see a peacock or they see a tamal tree and it's blackish, it's the color of Krishna, and they think of Krishna. So that stimulates their love for Krishna. Some emotion arises, and that emotion, they do something. The emotion, they don't just sit there and get emotional. It makes them do something, right? So maybe they'll start dancing. Maybe they'll start singing. Maybe they'll start speaking a pastime of Krishna. Maybe they'll go embrace the tree thinking it's Krishna. So those are all anubhavas. Those are voluntary expressions. They're just, it's beyond the mind, it's beyond the intelligence, it's beyond scripture. That's what they do. When they see the tamal tree, they think of Krishna and they go embrace the tree thinking it's Krishna. Who can explain it? It's beyond all logic. It's totally irrational. It's just pure love. It's just a loving expression, a voluntary. But because it's controllable, it's something that they do themselves, then it's called voluntary. So it's an anubhav. So on the level of Bhava Bhakti, any service that is done is in this category of anubhav. It's just pure loving expression. And then so then there are also some things that will happen which are involuntary. So let's say they see the tamal tree, they think it's Krishna, they embrace it, that's the anubhav. But then some things will happen that they can't control in their bodies, like tears will flow from the eyes, the hairs will stand on end, they'll start shaking all over. Those are sattvika bhavas, or involuntary expressions. And then the vyabhichari is the actual emotion. And then all these four components, these four things, combine together to nourish one's sthayi bhava, which is the basic connection, or one's actual, eternal relationship with Krishna. And then all these five components produce a taste. And that's actually what the rasa is. That's what makes the rasa, or the taste of particular taste, the individual taste that you have in your flavor of love for Krishna. Okay. All right. So how do we get to Bhava? Yeah.
Like in the previous slide, so is it that Sthai Bhava? Mataji, can you go to that slide?
This one?
Sthai Bhava. Yeah, Mataji, this one. So, so Sthai Bhava is, these four lead to Sthai Bhava. After Sthai Bhava, these four things start.
No, these things nourish the Sthai Bhava. Sthai Bhava is already there. Sthai Bhava means, whether it means your relationship with Krishna. That would be already awakened.
Okay.
Whether Sthai means fixed, it means a fixed mood. So your fixed mood is, for example, if you're a cowherd boy, then your Sthai Bhava is Sakya Ras. But even within Sakya Ras, there's different moods. There's different cowherd boys, right? There's some Priya Sakas, there's some that are just, regular boyish boys, right?
Yeah.
So even within the category, even within Priya Sakas, there are different. Every individual has their different mood, so that's why it's just called Sthai Bhava. Whatever your fixed mood is, but then these things come in and make your fixed mood more. They add variety. So within that mood, there's different things that happen. Different stimuli produce different emotions, different expressions, and different service and experience, and it's always change. It's very changeable. Rasa is never static. It's dynamic.
Like when we hear this thing that Sthai Bhava plus 9 for devotional service means these four things. So can you explain this thing?
Yeah, it's both. It's like, so Sthai Bhava, when the person who, in the particular Sthai Bhava practices the 9 forms of devotional service, then these expressions also happen. Okay. But then the expressions come back and nourish the Sthai Bhava. So it's like a cycle. It's like, remember in the beginning, we looked at the cycle of sin for the, materialistic person and how they get caught in a cycle of suffering. They do some sinful activity, they get some reaction, and then they suffer, and then they get the inclination to do it again, they do it again, and they do something worse, and they get a worse reaction. So they're spiraling downward, right? So for devotees, it's the opposite. They're spiraling upward. They have a relationship with Krishna, and so they do some service, they do 9 processes of devotional service, then that causes, they experience ecstasy, and awakening of more love, increase of love by doing that service. And then that love goes back and nourishes the Sthayi Bhav. And that then they become more fixed in the relationship with Krishna. The relation goes deeper. And then there's more ecstasy. And that deepens the relationship again. And then there's more ecstasy. And then, so it's just like spiraling up.
So it's like it's getting more and more refined. And our Sthayi Bhava, our relationship with Krishna, in the beginning, we just know that this is our relationship. And now what happens in that relationship, the amount of pleasure in one's relationship that keeps on increasing as these four things keeps on getting added, and it starts getting more and more refined. Is that what it means?
Yeah, exactly. Because let's say everybody's in Madhurya Ras, but then something happens, there's some stimulus, right? Something happens. One person responds one way, another person responds another way, everyone responds in a slightly different way because the mood is slightly different. Krishna says something. One gopi laughs, another one cries, the other one gets angry, right? He said the same thing. So like that. Because although they're all in Madhurya Ras, they have different moods in relationship to Krishna within the Ras, within that Sthayi Bhav.
And Mataji, there's this thing that you have, written that Bhava means stimulus and Anubhava means voluntary expression and so forth for Satvika and Vyabhichari. But we also hear that Vibhava means special ecstasy, Anubhava means subordinate ecstasy, and Satvika is natural ecstasy, and Vyabhichari is transitional ecstasy.
Where do you hear that?
Like in the Madhya Leela, same 23rd chapter where, you gave this definition of Bhava Bhakti. There also it's written, that Vibhava means special ecstasy, Anubhava means subordinate ecstasy, Satvika means natural ecstasy, and Vyabhichari means transitory ecstasy. So, I'm not able to, reconcile those four things in English with these four, if you could, tell.
Yeah, it may be a language thing. I mean, like, for example, you say emotions are transitory ecstasy. So emotions are always changing. Like the emotional state, you'll get some emotion, then it goes down, another different emotion comes. And so I'm sure that I haven't studied that in relation to this, but it's something that we could look into, and I can inquire about too, and see what the connections are there.
And this Alamban and Udipan, like we hear in this Vibhava.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether it's the right platform. So if you could just give some glimpse about what is Alamban and Udipan under Vibhava.
This is beyond the scope of this class. You'll learn about that in a lot of detail if you study the next wave. I studied the next wave with Mother Urmila Prabhu. She does a course on it, which is amazing. That's where I got this slide from, actually. And but we're not going there now. We're already late and we didn't finish yet. Okay, so I appreciate that you want to inquire, but I cannot honor your inquiry at the present time.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so here we go. Oh wait, this one. All right, so how do we get to Bhava? One way is through the constant association of devotees. And the example of that is Narada Muni. That's the usual method. So Narada Muni in his previous life, he got the association of those Bhakti Vedantas when they were 4 months of the rainy season staying at the Dharmashala, and his mother was serving them, and he was also helping and associating with them, hearing the lectures and taking prasadam. And by that constant association and their blessings, he became a Bhava Bhakta. And then another example given in the Nectar Devotion is by the special mercy of Krishna or a pure devotee. So this is rare. The example is given as there was one girl who danced all night for Krishna, and she got Bhava Bhakti. Krishna thought, this is special. I'm giving her Bhava Bhakti. So somehow she just got this. Krishna appreciated what she did. But this is it's rare, and it's compared to, Prabhupada compares it to an honorary degree. Like some people, they do some amazing service for the community or for the country or whatever, and they become recognized for their contribution, their hard work, their accomplishment. And so a university will just give them an honorary degree, although they never went to college. It's just a way of honoring somebody for an exceptional contribution. But that's not the standard way to get a degree, and we shouldn't expect to get a degree that way, right? The standard way is you go to college, do the courses, take the exams, get your degree. So yeah, Prabhupada, generally what's recommended is to do the usual method, because if you do that, it's pretty sure you're going to get it. This way you can hope against hope, but there's no guarantee. Yes, Raganugabhakti.
Mataji, is this second thing the same thing that we call as, Kripa Siddh, and the first one being a Sadhana Siddh thing? Like, Prabhupada gave the name Guru Kripa to, one of his disciples.
Yeah, you could say that. Yeah, I mean, the second one is definitely Kripa Siddhi. The first one, Sadhana Siddhi, Sadhu Siddhi, but also Kripa Siddhi is there. There's always has to be some, the mercy of devotees has to be there. And that's basic association with devotees means getting the mercy of the devotees. So that's entailed. But B means you're getting the mercy without really doing much, without like going through the proper standard procedure. That's the distinction. In both cases, you're getting mercy, and that mercy is always special, but this special mercy is almost like undeserved mercy. For example, when Lord Chaitanya embraced the son of Maharaj Prataparudra, like he didn't do anything. He just showed up, and then Lord Chaitanya just embraced him because he happened to look like Krishna, because he was beautiful. Oh, you remind me of Krishna. And he embraced him, and that was it. Ecstatic love for God. Okay.
So, and Mataji, so B can Jagai Madai be an example of B, or Mrigari, who was given mercy by Narad Muni, can this be an example of B?
Yeah, we're going to get to that.
Okay.
Those are mentioned. Okay, so yeah, so there's different ways that this mercy can be conveyed, and one way is by speaking. So let's look at that. So simply by speaking. In the Naradiya Purana, Lord Krishna said to Narada, "O best of the Brahmanas, I wish that you may develop unalloyed devotional service to me, which is full of transcendental bliss and all auspiciousness." So just by saying it, just by Krishna saying, "I want you to be a pure devotee. I want you to, have this Bhava Bhakti, basically, that your devotional service be full of transcendental bliss," then he got it. Then another one is simply by glancing. And so the example from the NOD is that quoted from the Skanda Purana, when the inhabitants of Jangala province saw the personality of Godhead Krishna, they were so stricken with feeling that they could not withdraw their glance from him. So in this case, just by seeing, they got the mercy. Then more examples, a few different examples are given by heartfelt wishes. So in the Shuka Samhita, Narada tells Srila Vyasadeva, "You have a son who is the greatest devotee of the personality of Godhead, and I can observe that without any following of the regular principles of devotional service, he is already enriched with many of the symptoms achieved by the execution of devotional service after many, many births." So this is by heartfelt wishes. Another one by heartfelt wishes is Prahlad. This next example of Narada saying he cannot understand the position of Prahlad is taken to be an indication that his position must have been achieved by Krishna's special mercy. Prahlad's initial attraction for Krishna was aroused by the good wishes of Narada. Yeah, so Prahlad was in the womb of his mother. And, what did he do? You could say he heard, but it wasn't by his own effort. He wasn't exactly performing sadhana bhakti. He was a helpless baby confined in a womb, right? But by the heartfelt wishes of Narada, then he was born already on the platform of Bhava Bhakti. And then the last one is Mrigari. Again, due to the heartfelt wishes of Narada. Looks like Narada is a person who you have to try to get the heartfelt wishes of, because the Mrigari, he was full of all the bad qualities. He was a terrible hunter, but due to the good wishes of Narada, then he also became a very exalted devotee. Okay, that's the last slide. Woo, we did it. All right, so any questions on any of these points from
Mataji,
Raganugabhakti?
may I ask a question here?
Yeah.
Mataji, like in the last slide and the previous one to this also, developing ecstatic love by heartfelt wishes.
Yeah.
I'm not able to get it. Actually, like we are wishing for someone that he should get ecstatic love. How is it possible? Like we are preaching, for example, and we want the general public to be devotees. So just by our wishing, how can they be the devotees? Just tell me that.
Yeah, because Krishna, he fulfills the desires of his devotees. You know, the devotees are, I mean, it depends on your it depends on the qualification of the person who is giving the heartfelt wishes. Right? So remember we were saying that how Bhava Bhakti is very rare because, or is it? Yeah, Bhava Bhakti is very rare because by it, Krishna becomes purchased by the devotee. Krishna becomes under the control of the devotee. So what does that mean? It means that if a devotee on a very advanced level, who's on the level of Bhava Bhakti, decides, I want this person to be a devotee, I want them to be on the level of Bhava Bhakti, then because Krishna is under their control, then Krishna's like, yes, sir.
Okay. We can understand it this way also, like one's spiritual master is wishing his disciple to get the ecstatic love. So
yes,
just by the wish of the spiritual master, the disciple gets the love.
Yes.
Thank you.
That's why the spiritual master is honored so much. That's why the first 5 of the items of sadhana bhakti are all in relation to the spiritual master. Because by the heartfelt wishes of the spiritual master, you know, the lotus feet of the spiritual master are the only way by which one can make attain pure devotional service. So yeah, we really have to get the mercy. That's why Prabhupada said the secret of success in spiritual life is to please the bona fide spiritual master. If we please the spiritual master, we can make very quick advancement. We can come to these very high levels. If we displease the spiritual master, then we're in big trouble, right? Yasya prasadad nagati kutopi. You're not getting anywhere. Because it's by the desire of the spiritual master that we make advancement. So when we please the spiritual master is like, wow, such a nice devotee. I'm so happy with your service. I'm really happy with your attitude. Krishna, please bless this person. Please shower your mercy on this person. They're trying so hard to please me.
Okay, Mataji. Thank you so much for the clarification.
It's like you were telling that first 5 depends upon spiritual master, but of course it's the case. But isn't it that all the other 63? I mean, we cannot achieve that without the first thing, you know, without spiritual master's mercy.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's only by the spiritual master's guidance that we can really perform any of them. Right? It's only by Srila Prabhupada, our Param Guru, our Shiksha Guru, preeminent Shiksha Guru for all of us, that we even know anything about these things.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, anything else?
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Am I audible?
Yes.
Mataji, then the last point that was asked, whether if a devotee wishes for it, any general devotee, just if we wish someone to get bhakti, or like how can it be possible? So just what I was saying in the book on the chapter of Nectar of Devotion, this chapter in ecstatic love.
Yeah.
Prabhupada is mentioning it is caused by the special grace of the personality of Godhead or by the special grace of a great devotee like Narada. So I think Prabhupada is mentioning an adjective with devotee, it's like great. So the devotee should be like very much good.
Yeah. I mean, we should also desire that other people become good devotees. We should desire that everyone gets the mercy of Krishna. Just that our desire may not have so much power as a pure devotee's desire. But we should still desire, and Krishna sees that. And that helps us to become pure. Okay, well, thank you all for staying the extra mile here. And I apologize for yesterday. There was really nothing I could do to save the situation yesterday. I hope that you'll all be able to come tomorrow for our last class. It should be a nice class.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Yes?
Mataji, I wanted to request that if it is comfortable to you, can we have one more extra hour or maybe one class just for the doubts on Friday or something, like after we are through our preparation for CBA, OBA, maybe I think there'll be many doubts from devotees. If everyone feels so, I desperately wanted to have some of your association around Friday, if comfortable to you and others.
That would be wonderful, Mataji, if this is possible.
Friday, I have to check my schedule because this weekend I'm going to be at a retreat, a Mana Shiksha seminar retreat. So I have to see what the schedule is. If I can fit it in my schedule, I won't mind. I mean, it's looking like Thursday may be better than Friday. I think the retreat officially starts on Friday. It goes Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
But whatever is suitable to you, Mataji.
Okay, how many of you would like that session? Just raise your electronic hand or raise your actual hand. Because if it's most of you, then I'll really try. If it's just 2 of you and not many need it or can do it. Okay, so it looks like we have like 7 raised hands. 8 raised hands. 9 raised hands. Okay, fine. So I'll try to figure it out. I'll look at what my trouble is. The time difference is not very, it doesn't give us a lot of flexibility. Otherwise, what about Krishna? What about, you know, when we could do it, actually, we could do it. Oh, but can you do it earlier or maybe on like Saturday? Earlier in the day? Like at 3 or 4 p.m. on Saturday?
By all means, Mataji, that's perfect. Right?
What's that?
It's perfect. 3 to 4
Yeah.
p.m.
Because that would be like 5 o'clock in the morning here or 6 in the morning, and nothing, you know, it won't conflict with something scheduled apart from my japa. But I can chant the japa earlier or later, but I can't attend the retreat sessions later, you know what I mean? So
Saturday would be best, Mataji.
okay, so how about Saturday? Saturday. Okay, how about Saturday at 3 p.m.? That would be 5:30 a.m. for me. Any of you?
It's fine for me.
Okay, can anybody who wants to come not make it Saturday 3 p.m.? All right, so it looks like everyone can make it. All right, so let's tentatively schedule it for that. And if I have to change, I'll let you know. Okay? All right then. Thank you very much. And I shall see you tomorrow. Hare Krishna. Nectar Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol.